So let's remember throughout this year to be praying for our teachers, and especially teachers are teaching in high school and so forth. I think that the environment that we oftentimes look at, I grew up in a Christian school. In fact, I grew up at Morrison Academy, went there for, I had to tell somebody when I started and when I ended. 1959 I started, and 1970 I ended. I'm the oldest alumni of Morrison Academy on Taiwan. That's my distinction. So, and the reason I say that is I appreciate the fact that it's difficult sometimes for students to go to be educated in a secular surrounding. I grew up in a Christian school, and I can promise you it wasn't much easier for me. I really struggled with my faith when I left school also. And I can say even for my children who went through a Christian education, there comes a point in time where where your faith has to become your faith. Sometimes it happens at an earlier age, but the dangers of a Christian school is that the Christian kids kind of just move along with it, and it doesn't really become inculcated to where it's there in mind, and it can be very dangerous. Something I think that a lot of missionary families have dealt with, and something I believe that Morrison is doing very well in teaching their children, their students. It's your faith. Step up to it. So I say that to remind us, all of us, children are a very precious, valuable life, and we need to be remembering to be praying for one another, be praying for the parents. I mean, it's not all on the teachers, believe it or not. It's not all on the teachers to make our children, now is it? So I appreciate our children's ministry. We have an excellent children's ministry, and I appreciate all those who work hard at it every Sunday, and I appreciate you bringing your children here, and so let's hold up one another in this. We're continuing on in the Summer Psalms series. I could say, or I thought I might say, that this would be the last Sunday in the series. But next week I'll be preaching in a Chinese church, and so David Freeman will be preaching here. Now, he might preach from a psalm or he might not, so I'm not going to tell you this is the last Sunday of the Summer Psalm series, just in case it's next Sunday. But I will tell you this, that we're beginning in September to a series of sermons on the book of Leviticus, the third book of the Old Testament. And it's interesting, of the 5 books of the law, Leviticus is the center book, and it's really quite a focus. Again, I've told you several times that I've read the book. I can't, I try and read the Bible through regularly, and every time I get to Leviticus, it's like, it's like, okay, I got to get through this thing. But it helps to study a book and to find out there's really a lot more to it. So again, I encourage you, in a couple of weeks, we're going to begin this series of sermons on the book of Leviticus. And quite frankly, it has to do with a lot with ritual. And today, being Christians in the age of grace, we don't do much ritual, do we? The other day, I was standing outside this temple over here on Temudonglu. The one next door to TAS there, the only temple that I know of that can take a major throwaway and block it up for their festivals. Who does that? You think that we can go out there and block that street for our festival? I don't think so. But anyway, I was watching, and as people would go through the motions and what they would do and how they would do it, and wondering to myself, why? Who taught them? And have you noticed that on certain days, businesses will set up a table loaded with food, and then they'll have this the incense burning and do a little bye-bye, a little worship thing, and they do it about the same day, and oftentimes about the same time of day. And my question was, where did that come from? What is teaching them and showing them? And if we look even at our own practice of taking the communion and the ritual that that we go through for that, we need to constantly be reminding ourselves the meaning and the purpose and the import of it. So that comes from the book of Leviticus. Because in the book of Leviticus, God gives his people a way to act out their faith. And we today as Christians believe that we're free to act it out in any way we want to because of grace. So it's really, I think, very helpful for us to take a step back and to realize what our roots are and where our roots go back to, since we were talking about the picture of roots. And that's going to be in the book of Leviticus starting in 2 weeks. I encourage you, 27 chapters in 2 weeks. If you read 2 chapters a day, you can read it all through by the time we start. So grab your cup of coffee and sit down with the book of Leviticus and read on through it. A couple of weeks. Now, in this past few weeks, we've been doing this summer series on Psalms. Started out with, a few weeks ago, on Messianic Psalms, where they're talking about how they're giving us prophecies about Jesus in the New Testament. Literally and unequivocally, these prophecies were looking right at Jesus. We saw about his agony on the cross. We saw about his identification as a shepherd of the sheep. And we saw in chapter 24 that he's coming back as a king. Now, we didn't look at chapter 25 or Psalm 25. Skip to 26 because of these three, 25, 26, and 27, 26 really is the apex and actually where we're at today. But I want to finish by looking at Psalm 27. You see, in Psalm 25, the psalmist is asking God, I don't want to miss this life. That's a good question, I think. I don't want to miss the path in this life. Who wants to go through this life and realize at the end, oops, took a wrong turn. I blew it. That's the story of Ecclesiastes, of the person who spent their whole life in the wrong pursuits, comes to the end and finds out it's all vanity and goes, oh, my soul, life is over and I blew it. What a tragedy that is. And so he asks in Psalm 25, show me the path. I think it's a very wise person who says, someone knows more than I do. Maybe it's God. Maybe I should seek God's wisdom in the path that I should walk. And so that's what he does in Psalm 25. He says, teach me. Psalm 26, the psalmist, the writer, has walked the path then that he was taught. Again, speaking of the values of good education. I have walked the path that I was taught. And now he says to his teacher or to Yahweh, vindicate me. Vindicate me. What he's saying by that is, I'm not trying to justify myself and trying to say, see, I made the right decision. No, I'm asking God, listen, I walked the path that you gave me to walk. Now please show others that was the right decision. Vindicate me that walk was the right walk to take. Show that those who have observed you, those who have lived a moral life, made the right choice. Stability and peace is a result of it. Now, Psalm 27 then goes a bit further. And here he talks about how faith in Yahweh overcomes fear. In many of your Bibles, that word Yahweh may just be Lord, all caps. In some of your translations, it may be Jehovah. It's the personal name for God. It's the name that someone would use who has a personal faith and relationship. Another name for God is Elohim. That was kind of oh boy, what was the word? I'm just having these senior moments, and the words that I want, they just go, I knew what I was. Anyway, it's a word that's commonly used for God. But the personal word, the personal name is Yahweh. And here he in this song, he's saying, let my faith in you, O Lord, infuse me with courage to overcome fear. And so the first few verses of that psalm are, about that. Let's read that Psalm 27, shall we? It's not a long psalm, so we can read through the whole thing. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked come against me to eat up my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be confident. One thing I have desired of the Lord, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret place of his tabernacle he shall hide me. He shall set me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. Therefore I will offer sacrifices of joy in his tabernacle. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. When you said, seek my face, my heart said to you, your face, Lord, will I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not leave me nor forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take care of me. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me in a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not deliver me to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breathe out violence. I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage. He shall strengthen your heart. Thank you. Now, in this particular psalm, he speaks of faith that overcomes fear, and how walking in that faith, walking that path, overcomes the enemies and the hindrances and the obstacles. And then he prays for courage. He asks for the courage to go on. Now, what does it mean to encourage someone? To encourage. To encourage means to infuse someone with courage, to encourage. And what a great opportunity that is, to come across someone who's kind of tentative in life, kind of unsure, lacking in a sense of confidence, to draw alongside of them, and then to infuse in them the courage to stand, the courage to make the right decisions. I think that's something that Dan was speaking about with regard to teaching our children, giving them courage to stand as they should. And so the psalmist says, you're my light, my salvation, my stronghold. And he asks the question then, as he's filled with this courage, who am I going to be afraid of? And for each of us, as we face life, when we face questions in life, when we have deep issues that we may wonder about, wouldn't it be such a blessing and a strength to be able to stand on a level ground, as we were talking about last week, to stand on level ground, 2 feet, both feet planted, and to say, I shall not be afraid. I will continue on. I shall not be afraid. Now, there's 3 parts in this psalm that lead to our study of it, and I just, as a very brief synopsis, I'll go through them very quickly. The first part has to do with